When you're trying to grow your business, it requires certain decisions. Do you pivot what you're currently doing, or do you double down and focus on it, like 10 toes down on it? Well, let's talk about that, because as we talk about it, I think it will help me get more clear in terms of what I do. My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist, and over 11 years ago, I started my therapy clinic, and over 5 years ago, I started Hand Therapy Secrets to share the clinical knowledge I have, and then also just share my business journey. And if you need my help, then the links are below. You can watch my other videos. I put out a business video and podcast every Wednesday, and I write an email that goes with it. So if you want to just get on the OT Business Corner, the link's there. But if you want to work with me personally on making these types of decisions, then the link is there, and we can work as a consultation basis as well. So I'm going to share with you what I did then versus what I might be doing now. So when I started my therapy clinic, 2 years into it, I was growing and I was like, I hate this shit. This is hard. It was really hard. It was very lonely. I didn't know what I was doing. And then that's when I started diving into a lot of business, like learning, because I realized that my clinical skills could only get me so far, and I needed to really hone in on my business skills. Back then, I was like, how do I grow my business? Because do I pivot? I was a OT, CHT, and I was really just marketing hands and upper extremity, and I was trying to get into insurance companies. I was trying to get into all the major ones: Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Humana, you name it. And then I was working with a lot of workers' comp and Medicare, and I was like, well, everyone else is taking Medicare and Medicaid, so do I do Medicaid as well? So I'm like, trying to do the legwork for that. But I also decided to then hire a company to do the legwork for me as well. So I first started with like a cheaper company who was like, oh, we can do all that stuff. They didn't give me shit. So then I ended up switching to another company. They're like, well, we can do all that stuff for you too. And they were so much more expensive. So I thought, oh, that would help me. But I was at a point where I was making money, but I was spending a shit ton of it too. So revenue was coming in, expenses were taking it out, and I couldn't see a way. There was some profit. There was definitely some profit, because what I ended up doing was I took the profit of that and invested in myself, invested in some business learning. But it was at that moment where, even though I was making money, there was profit in the business, it was a miserable way of making profit. I was working all the time. All the time. I was working nights, weekends, all the time. And I was like, this is a lot of work for a little bit of money. You know what I mean? And I just didn't see how I was going to be able to get out of that grind of time. So once you start getting some money and you're not desperate for the money, the other thing that you want is time. Like, my kids were little at that time, and I was like, I couldn't even go on vacation. All these people are like, oh, like, opened my business and I'm on vacation. I don't know. There's this new trend now of like therapists doing therapy, like travel agency thing, and they're like, I'm taking vacation. Bitch, I know you work it. I know we always want to portray like this shit's easy. It wasn't. So at that moment in time, for my business to grow, I had to sort of think, do I double down on this insurance stuff or do I pivot? And it was that moment in time I had to make a really hard decision, and I decided to pivot. So what did that look like? I had to pivot and say, okay, well, it's not worth it for me to try to get into these networks. I've been trying to get into these networks for like over 2 years. I actually started trying before I officially kind of opened and started seeing patients. So I was spending a lot of money, I was spending a lot of time, and I was spending a lot of energy trying to get into these networks, trying to get in. And I actually got into United Healthcare, and it's one of the worst insurance reimbursements. So back then it was United Healthcare bought Neighborhood Health, and it was a little local company. I was working with a gunshot wound patient. The doctor, one of my favorite surgeons, sent me this patient. I was like, I didn't want to turn her away, but I took her insurance. I was reimbursed $35 for an hour of therapy, 4 units of therapy. including wound care. I had to supply wound care supplies, my knowledge, right? My specialty. And then I got paid $35. I really couldn't see her with other people because of her severity. I needed a lot of one-on-one time with her. At least that's what I thought. And that's how I wanted to practice. And then on top of that, my billing company took a certain percentage, right? We are not talking about any other, how do you call it, expenses. We're not talking about rent, utilities, water, like none of that. So imagine, yes, the business was making money. She wasn't my only patient, but can you imagine if I had more of her? Like if I had more of those kind of patients versus some of my other higher cost contracts? I was like, I will die. Like I will never be able to have enough money to enjoy. I would never have enough money to pay myself or much less hire. So that's what, we usually make these decisions when we're in a certain level of pain. So you have to determine your level of pain. It was very painful for me. So I pivoted. I decided to get out of network. I decided to stop trying for those things and I decided to go cash. So I got rid of Medicaid. I only take Medicare. I work with workers' comp, but I was, we need to focus on which ones we're willing to take versus others. And I decided I was going cash. So now going cash required me to have to learn marketing and had to learn certain skills of conversations and sales and things like that. So it's like marketing and sales that you really have to put your focus into. You have to learn it, and then you have to learn it well enough to train your staff, and then you have to do it, right? So that was my, back then, over 8 years ago, that was my biggest pivot, right? That was my biggest pivot. And then from that pivot, I focused down on skills for marketing, skills for sales, and then clinical skills, so that I was so good that patients were willing to come back time and time again. They're willing to refer their patients, their friends. Doctors saw the results of my work and would send me more patients, right? So that allowed me to focus on those things because of the major decision I had that was pivoting. Fast forward now, I feel like I'm in a position again where I have to decide, do I pivot or do I focus? Do I pivot what I'm doing? So now I currently have an OT, I have a team. I have to think about my next hire. Like, who do I hire? Yeah, could I bring on a physical therapist? Like, I had that decision back then too. I actually even interviewed a couple of PTs looking to see what, kind of specialty I wanted to bring in. But I always kind of came back to, I need two of everything, right? So I need two OTs before I could hire a PT. If you are cash based, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're cash based, it really doesn't matter. I have like a lot of friends who do cash based PT. If they have a specialty in pelvic health, there's a lot of OTs that do and want to do pelvic health, and you would have an easier time finding them, because what happens is you open your pool of people, right, with a particular specialty. In the hand therapy world, majority of hand therapists are OTs, so I would have a harder time finding like a PT hand therapist, right? So, but I was like, do I hire a PT that is interested in doing other things? So like other body parts and stuff like that. And I always had that, like, how do I grow my clinic? How do I do the next thing? And so now I'm at that stage too, where I'm like, I really I want to put the time back. I've been putting the time back into my clinic in the last like 2 years, I want to say, and it's growing, it's doing really well. And now we're at a phase where where do we want to grow? How do we want to grow? And when you're making these decisions, it does take time. It does take time. Like, you're not like, oh, I'm going to sit here for like 30 minutes and meditate and then poof. Like, you can go, it's okay, right? You can go back and forth in terms of what you want. How do you think it's going to look to grow? 2 years ago, I developed, 2 years ago, I invested in technology for the clinic. So it's another service that's outside of the realm of just traditional therapy, but it's more to supplement the therapy process. You can use it alone, or you can supplement it and make it a combined thing. So what people are looking for are better solutions, faster solutions, um, so that they can, there's a lot of people who want to avoid surgery, right? And there's this pocket of people who want to have surgery and then they want to get better from their surgery. So how can you help those people? So now I'm into, like, do I pivot or do I focus? And I am of the mindset that I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on the things that I do really well. I'm going to focus on the people that I help really well. I'm going to focus on the people who are willing and want to spend with us here for the value that they're receiving, that they're not looking for the cheapest services, but they're looking for the best services. So how do I double down on that? How do I focus on that, to make that even better, right? Versus like constantly switching and doing something new. Like, I don't want to switch back to insurance and start taking PTs and growing fast. I don't want to grow fast or big, right? I don't want to grow fast or big. I don't want a big team. Like, some people are like, they have, like, they want to span multiple counties and they want to have like a team of 20 or 30 therapists, and like, I don't want that. I know I don't want that. So because I don't want to pivot back into that game, I have to now, my decisions all around staying focused. What do I need to do to improve what we currently have? How do I improve what we have so we can increase the volume so that I can hire another OT? How can I use technology, to improve on the therapy services and ancillary services that then can generate more sales, and help people improve faster? Do I focus and double down on YouTube? Like, so I'm really big into organic social media. I know that sometimes it takes a little bit longer to grow that, but I think that's really vital in terms of building trust with people. And then from organic, you can then take what works really well and then turn them into, paid ads and things like that. So I think there's a benefit to both, and it just depends on what you're looking to do, right? These are your business decisions. These are my business decisions that I'm sharing with you. So do I double down on YouTube? Because right now, my YouTube channel is growing very nice and steady. I get a good amount of engagement. I'm getting a good amount of feedback in terms of how my educational videos have been really helpful. I'm getting more and more patients coming through my door saying, hey, I saw your video, right? I saw your video. So do I do that? Do I double down on that and create more content for the clinic? Now, if I do that, then I need another person to come help me. If it's not another person, then it's a VA company to come and help me with the amount of content that we have to be able to produce. So one of the things when it comes to creating content, which I can share in a different video, and I think I have, but you're creating long form content to then cut into shorter content. But then you also can create short content that's very specific to short form content. So it's just really a matter of time to be able to create some of that. And as you create them, you get a little faster. But then what bottlenecks is, I'm looking for like somebody who can help me with the editing. And I think it's not like I'm looking for like high level editing. I'm just looking for someone who can really do the editing fast, use the platforms and technologies that we have that can help you with the editing so it's faster, and then distributing it a certain way on the different platforms. So I think that's where I need to now focus on. But I do feel like I need another person to come in and to be able to help manage some of that. I think that's it. Yeah, that's how I'm gonna grow my business. That's how I'm gonna grow my clinic. So I have two businesses to kind of really think about. Um, but from a clinic standpoint, um, yeah, that's how you grow a business. You have to make big decisions, and then once you make the decisions, then it's about the execution of it. So sometimes you might need help making the decision, making sure that you are, hashing it through with somebody who can help you think through and kind of spot the problems. I always say when you're inside the jar, you can't read the outside label. When patients come to us, they're inside the jar and they're trying to fix themselves with everything, but they can't read the outside label. So you as an outside person can look in and be like, oh, I see these types of problems. And that's the benefit when you are trying to make these bigger decisions. Sitting down and talking with somebody who is outside of your circle. That's what I do for myself. Like, I actually going to be doing that, sitting with someone outside of my business who can help me see and read the outside of my label, because I'm so deep in it that I have a really hard time sometimes. Like, am I seeing all the problems, or am I hashing through all the things that could be, both, always looking at the upside but always knowing what the downside is, because you have to mitigate those things. So there has to be a balance, right? So it's really important to have that. And so if you're looking for someone to help you read the outside of your label, my link's below, and I can help you in terms of looking through and helping you make some decisions, just like other people help me to make the decision. Do pivot, do focus, and everyone's different because we're all looking for a different something in our lives, but at the end of the day, it looks very similar. We're all looking for time and money, but all the little in betweens of it looks a little different. But anyway, I hope this helped you. Like, my own experience helps you to make some decisions on what you need to do. I'm still in the thick of it, and you'll always be in the thick of it as long as you are up and running and own a business and looking to grow it, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, and that's the truth. So always look to grow. It doesn't have to be exponential, but there is some growth, and don't be afraid of that. Like, I'm not afraid of it. I just need to have a clear visual, like a roadmap in terms of like how to get there. And if you're looking for that, I can help you. All right, thanks. Let me know. Links below, and you can subscribe if you like. All right.